Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, the families of Newtown shooting victims may soon be closer to getting financial compensation from Alex Jones. And demolition is underway of a high school building in Florida where a gunman killed 17 people in 2018.
And we did it. Some places hit 90. I'll tell you who hit 90 today, coming up in a few minutes.
Dedicated to Southern and Eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening. I'm Olivia Calfee. A federal judge has ordered the liquidation of conspiracy theorist Alex Jones' personal assets to pay off money he owes to the families of victims in the 2012 Sandy Hook school shooting. It's still unclear if Jones will lose his media platform after courts in 2 states say he must pay more than $1 billion for damages in defamation cases. CBS's Omar Villafranca reports from Houston, Texas.
Families of Sandy Hook Elementary shooting victims are one step closer to getting financial compensation from conspiracy theorist Alex Jones.
I will not be silenced.
On Friday, a federal judge in Texas granted Jones's request to liquidate his personal assets in order to pay off the $1.5 billion he owes them.
These people want me silenced. It is completely and totally transparent, and the world is seeing through this.
Robbie Parker, who lost his 6-year-old daughter Emily in the 2012 massacre, was among plaintiffs who successfully sued Jones for spreading lies about the attack, calling the incident fake and calling parents crisis actors.
I lost my own power. I lost my voice for a long time. It took me joining this lawsuit to finally start to be able to find and reclaim some of those things again.
Scarlett Lewis lost her 6-year-old son Jesse that day.
You can forgive someone, but that doesn't mean that you forget. They need to be held accountable so that they don't do it to someone else.
Even though Jones eventually relented in court and admitted the shooting was not a hoax,
It's 100% real.
this liquidation could be just the beginning of his financial burden.
In a case involving defamation, that debt, if you will, is not extinguished. They can continue to go to seek more.
Survivors of the massacre are pressing ahead, marking a major milestone this week. Dozens of students from Sandy Hook Elementary wore green and white pins at their high school graduation ceremony, honoring their fallen classmates and educators. Omar Villafranca, CBS News, Houston, Texas.
The Supreme Court struck down a federal ban on bump stocks approved by former President Donald Trump. His administration had pushed for the ban in response to a 2017 mass shooting that killed 58 people at an outdoor music festival in Las Vegas. Bump stocks convert a semi-automatic rifle into a weapon that can fire at a rate of hundreds of rounds a minute. The ban was challenged by a Texas gun store owner who purchased 2 of the devices in 2018. The Justice Department says it will not prosecute Attorney General Merrick Garland after House Republicans voted to hold him in contempt of Congress earlier this week. GOP House members held Garland in contempt for not turning over audio recordings of President Joe Biden's interviews with former special counsel Robert Hur. At the time, Hur was investigating Biden's handling of classified material, but declined to bring charges. Federal officials are investigating claims 2 of the biggest commercial airline makers may have used counterfeit titanium in their planes. The Federal Aviation Administration said they're looking into accusations that Boeing and Airbus used titanium that may have been sold using fake documents. The claims came from Spirit Aerosystems. That company says they quarantined and removed any suspect parts from production. A policy showdown is set in the Senate after the House passes its $895 billion defense spending authorization bill, known as the National Defense Authorization Act. The House passed it by a tight margin, which sets the Pentagon's policy and funding for 2025. The 2025 budget is about $9 billion more than this year. The biggest change is boosting military salaries. Junior enlisted members stand to gain the most with a 20% raise as it stands now.
This makes a big difference, and so finally doing something for our warfighters, and that's the thing we're excited about. These wages that they volunteer for is very hard.
And so they have hijacked the National Defense Authorization Act in order to jam their extreme right-wing ideology down the throats of the American people.
Democrats say restrictions to abortion access, gender-affirming care, and the elimination of diversity efforts are non-starters. Demolition is underway of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School building in Parkland, Florida, where 17 people died in a 2018 mass shooting on Valentine's Day. A large excavator started the process on top of the 3-story classroom building Friday morning after a one-day postponement because of bad weather. The building is where a former student opened fire, killing 17 students and educators and injuring more than a dozen others.
My son is concerned that people will forget now that the building's being taken down. My wife said she had kind of grown attached to the space as we walked through it so many times with different leaders and policymakers. As for me, I'm concerned because we haven't seen a solid plan yet for what's going to replace this building.
It will take several weeks before the demolition is complete, but school officials say it should before students return from summer vacation. Last month, Governor Andy Beshear declared Juneteenth a state executive branch holiday. Juneteenth commemorates the day the last slaves were freed in the United States. Legislation has been proposed in the past 3 sessions to make it a statewide holiday, but it has not gone far. Representative George Brown of Lexington announced he will file it again for the 2025 legislative session.
There were people in Texas that were still enslaved and working for no wages, and they were beaten and abused and all of that for almost 2 years.
Governor Andy Beshear's senior advisor Rocky Adkins says legislation next year could be pushed across the finish line with the help of momentum from the governor, making Juneteenth a holiday in the executive branch.
Well, we did it. Some places across eastern Kentucky made it to 90 today, especially over towards the Somerset area, as well as Middlesboro, Jacksboro, Monticello actually made it to 90. It says 88 on the high end. You made it to 90 earlier. Harlan made it to 89, 86 in Manchester. 88 was the high in Hazard, 88 in Prestonsburg. And right now we're sitting at 88 degrees. We have a mixture of sun and clouds out there. As we take a look at the temperatures across the area right now, Middlesboro's at 90. Jonesville's at 88, Harlan's at 87, Hazard's at 88, Moorhead as well as Jackson is at 86 degrees. Live pinpoint Doppler radar showing a clean sweep across eastern Kentucky, but you don't have to go too far to see a scattered shower or two. Just go east of Lexington and southeast of Louisville, where a little bit of thunderstorm activity is taking place. So the next 12 hours keeps temperatures in the 80s as we go into the 8 o'clock time frame. By the time you join us at 11, we'll be around 76 degrees. And then we'll see temperatures in the upper 60s when you wake up in the morning for Saturday. Now, coming up in the first alert forecast, we will talk about the next several days after Saturday as it's going to get hot. Olivia, over to you.
All right, Eric, thank you. For the first time since the College Baseball World Series began, the Kentucky Wildcats have made it to Omaha. The Wildcats are the only team in the field of 8 making their inaugural appearance. Brian Milam is live in the nation's heartland covering the Cats. Brian?
Thank you, Olivia. Going all the way back to the 1940s, UK basketball fans have followed UK teams to the Final Four and either rationally or irrationally expect Kentucky basketball to go every year. But what if you're a UK baseball fan? Getting to this point, to this hallowed ground, has been all but improbable. And as you said, Kentucky finally first appearance at the College World Series. Now, Kentucky dominated all but one of their postseason opponents getting to this stage. Nick Mingione, he has been here before in 2013 as an assistant to John Cohen at Mississippi State. As for the players, only one previously has made it this far, and that is Mitchell Daly, who was a freshman at Texas a couple of years ago. As for Nick Bengione, the National Coach of the Year, he had a special message for those Omaha baseball fans.
If you can put this out, this would mean a lot to me. If the people of Omaha are looking for a team to root for, this is your team. This is your team. We are the first timers. We want to have a great experience. We want to be lifted up. I've seen this city and I've seen the people of this place lift up opposing teams. I've watched this thing over and over. And if they're looking for a team that competes at the highest level and has an amazing time doing it, we would love for you to jump on board. And you're like, I wonder who I'm going to root for. Let it be the Cats.
Let it be the Cats indeed. Kentucky in its first College World Series in 77 years since they started this thing way back in 1947. I was one of the fortunate ones, the thousands in 2017 to see Kentucky beat NC State in the Lexington Regional. That was the first time that had ever happened. Well, these two programs meet tomorrow for the first time since that 2017 regional. First pitch around 2 p.m. from here at the College World Series in Omaha. I'm Brian Milam, WYMT Mountain News.
All right, Brian, thank you. It's definitely an exciting time for the Cats, and we'll have more about UK baseball coming up in sports. But coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, one company claims you can have gel nails done in a matter of minutes with their product. We find out if that's actually the case.
And in the world of weather, tomorrow will be the pick of the weekend. We'll explain why in the First Alert forecast on the other side of the break. Stay with us.